Hi, my name is Shirley and I'm a 31-year-old office worker. A year ago, I married a man named Mason. We met on a blind date, and after dating for a year and a half, he proposed. I had always dreamed of settling down, so even though it felt a bit rushed, I accepted his proposal. But now looking back, I realize I should have been more careful. Soon after our wedding, Mason suddenly decided to change jobs. I was surprised and asked him why he made such a quick decision. He said his previous job didn't let him fully use his skills. What shocked me even more was that he had already quit and would be leaving his job at the end of the month. Luckily, he found a new job quickly, but it paid less than his old one. At first, I wasn't too worried because I was also working. But then Mason started pressuring me to quit my job. I might have considered it if his new salary was enough for both of us, but with his recent job change, his income was lower, and he kept saying it would go up soon without knowing when. Quitting my job under these uncertain financial conditions seemed risky. We needed my income to keep saving money and cover our basic expenses like rent and car payments. It just wasn't practical to rely only on Mason's salary. One evening, Mason handed me divorce papers, trying to scare me. "You know I'm ready for this whenever," he said. I told him to calm down and think about what he was saying, but he just walked away to his room. This argument made me reflect on how quickly things had changed since I met Mason. I told him I wouldn't quit my job until his salary improved. He seemed to accept this at first, but he kept bringing it up again and again. Whenever he asked, "When are you going to quit?" I gave him the same firm answer. Now, a year into our marriage, his salary still hadn't increased, and he continued to pressure me about quitting my job. Sometimes I wanted to respond sarcastically, but I held back, knowing our financial stability depended on my income. If quitting my job was so important to him, I felt he should focus on advancing his career to earn more. As time went on, I started to understand why Mason was so insistent on me leaving my job. It became clear during our visits to his parents' house. Whenever we were with his mother, Martha, Mason would act concerned and say he wanted to make her life easier. Martha would thank him, and Mason would look at me like he was trying to nudge me into quitting. He suggested that his mother needed help, but Martha was perfectly fine. She was healthy, active, and even worked a part-time job that supported her hobbies and social life. She didn't need me to take care of her, but Mason kept pushing the idea. "If only one of us were home during the day, we could check on Mom daily," he said out of nowhere. It seemed he imagined me visiting Martha every day, which felt unnecessary and overwhelming. I asked him directly what he expected me to do since Martha was perfectly capable on her own. Mason listed small tasks like helping with housework or running errands. It was clear he had ideas about how I could contribute, but none of them seemed to justify me giving up my career. This constant cycle of requests and explanations was exhausting. I needed Mason to understand that while I was happy to support his family when needed, quitting my job without a good reason was not something I could easily agree to. After all, Martha had her part-time job and spent most of her days out with friends. I pointed out to Mason that when he suggested I handle the housework during the day, his response left me baffled. Was he really implying that I should become his mother's maid? Mason was always very concerned about maintaining a certain image, especially in front of his parents. If he was so eager to take care of them, why didn't he handle the household chores himself? Despite his insistence, I stood firm in my decision not to quit my job. I also chose not to visit my in-laws on my days off, although I made an effort to see them during major holidays like New Year's. During our visits, I noticed a pattern. Mason often delegated tasks to me. He'd ask me to tidy up, assist his mom, or run errands. I resisted these requests. When he suggested I go to the store, I would respond, "Don't you know this area better than I do?" His reply was always the same, that it wouldn't look right if he did it himself. I found this reasoning both confusing and manipulative. It seemed like he was more interested in controlling the situation and projecting an image of caring for his family than actually caring for them, or for me. Over time, my view of Mason began to change. It seemed like he was more concerned with appearances than with real affection or respect for me. When I finally confronted him, asking why he didn't help out more or even quit his job to take care of his mother, his reaction spoke volumes. He looked disgusted and uncomfortable, saying, "That's not something I'm supposed to do. I'm giving you these instructions so my mom will think you're a considerate, useful wife. You should realize how kind I'm being to you." His words revealed a lot. He wanted to dump all the hard work on me while making himself look good, as if he was doing something extraordinary. But I'm not his servant, and I don't deserve to be treated with disrespect, especially in front of my in-laws. It became clear to me that Mason's priorities were completely skewed. He cared more about appearances than about having a genuine partnership and supporting each other. If Mason keeps making these unreasonable demands, I won't stay quiet. I'll stand up for myself. Despite many discussions, Mason hasn't changed. He constantly pesters me with the same old question. "Are you going to quit your job?" Every time we visit my in-laws, he continues to boss me around just as he always has. I finally reached my limit. I decided it was crucial to have a serious conversation with him. We need to talk about our future, I said, hoping to steer our conversation in a constructive direction. What are you even trying to say? Mason retorted, clearly annoyed. I'm honestly fed up, I replied. I'm tired of you constantly asking me when I'll quit my job, and I'm exhausted from you pressuring me to take care of Martha. I laid out my concerns to Mason. Why are you fed up with that? You're my wife, and it's your duty to care for your husband's parents, Mason argued. Don't you think that's a huge responsibility to place solely on me? Shouldn't you, as their biological child, be responsible for helping with the housework and taking care of your parents in the first place? I challenged his outdated views. No way, it's the wife's duty to do it. Are you the kind of person who doesn't care about family? Mason accused, clearly upset by my resistance. I'm disappointed to hear you say that, he added. Sensing an opportunity to expose the double standard, I asked, then let me ask you this. How have you been taking care of my parents? If I asked you to care for my parents, would you do it? Mason looked at me blankly, unable to see the parallel. What are you saying? Why should a husband take care of his wife's parents? So does that mean you won't take care of my parents now or ever? I pressed, trying to highlight his inconsistency. Husband's parents and wife's parents are completely different, Mason replied, missing the point. What difference does that make? I don't get it, I said, feeling frustrated. I didn't realize you were so clueless. It's like talking to my old boss, I continued, dismayed by his lack of understanding. What are you saying? Mason asked, confused. I'm saying that both sets of parents should be important, and we should take care of each other's families, I replied, emphasizing the importance of mutual support and equality in our responsibilities. So you only prioritize your own family by blood? I'm so disappointed in you, I exclaimed. I won't be visiting your parents anymore. Why would you do that? Enough is enough. I'm the one who wants you to stop this nonsense, I retorted. No way. How dare you talk back like that? My mom is right. Mason shot back, his temper flaring. Mom was talking about you. She said you're a badly behaved wife. That's why she gave me this. Mason pulled out a piece of paper from his bag. It was divorce papers. What? You already had divorce papers ready? I was shocked, but Mason seemed oddly proud. See? I scared you, didn't I? I'm prepared for this anytime, so think about what you just said, Mason declared smugly before storming off to his room. Unbelievable. Why is Mason so selfish? That look of triumph on his face, it's clear the divorce papers are just a threat to make me obey him. The fact that Martha was involved made me even more suspicious. Mason is acting like a puppet for his mom, trying to control me while following her orders. It's ridiculous. I won't let Mason have his way. How can he not see that our marriage is in trouble when he acts like this? His lack of understanding just annoys me more. Mason had already completed the divorce papers and had them signed with witnesses, including Martha and his friends. This meant I could sign and file them whenever I chose. The next day after Mason went to work, I filled out the divorce papers and submitted them to the city office. As a precaution, I also filed a notice of non-acceptance of the marriage certificate. I called my parents and explained the situation, knowing Mason might try to file the marriage certificate on his own. When my parents learned that I had prepared the divorce papers, they were initially shocked but fully supported my decision. Outraged by Mason's behavior, they immediately offered to help me move my belongings. Taking leave from work, I had my parents come over, and we relocated all my things to their house while Mason was away. I decided to stay with my parents for a while. It was the first time in a long time that I felt truly comfortable and at ease in their home. Reflecting on my marriage, it became clear that Mason never contributed his fair share to our household chores. I was the one cooking dinner after long work days and handling all the cleaning and laundry on my days off. On top of that, he expected me to also care for his parents, which was just not feasible. That evening, Mason called me, probably just back from work. Hello? Hey, where are you right now? I told Mason, I'm at my parents' house. He sounded surprised and annoyed. Why would you go back there without my permission? Where's all your stuff? Don't tell me you were staying the night, he questioned, not realizing the seriousness of the situation. He seemed to think I was just staying over, not that I had moved out for good. I'm not coming back, I said firmly. What are you talking about? Come back here and make me some food, he demanded. Make it yourself, I replied before ending the call. I couldn't discuss divorce with him if he kept acting so dismissive, so I decided to block his number and wait for him to show up at my parents' house. A week later, Mason arrived at my parents' home with his parents. They'd all looked serious as we sat down in the living room. It was 3 against 3. How could you leave without my permission? Mason demanded, his voice full of disbelief and accusation. You were treating me like a housekeeper, Mason. All I ever asked was that you take care of your family responsibilities, I said, standing my ground. That's not true. What kind of wife am I if I don't take care of Mason? Martha, his mom, gave me a fierce glare. My father started to get angry, but I quickly spoke up. Mason told me to quit my job and take care of Martha, claiming it was my duty as his wife. Yet when it comes to my own family, he expects me to handle everything alone. Ultimately, Mason wants obedience and uses me to care for his parents while taking credit for it. That's why he prioritizes his parents over mine. Martha continued to glare, but Mason's father, Liam, looked confused, as if he hadn't known about this. "Let me clear the air," Mason said, suddenly blaming the idea of divorce on his mother. "Why would you suggest that?" Liam asked, surprised. "Oh no, it's because Camila has an attitude problem," Martha stammered. "And did you say that my parents aren't a priority?" I pressed. "Well, it's only natural that your parents come first," Martha replied defensively. "Don't be absurd. I came here to support you after hearing about the unfair treatment Camila endured, but now it seems you're the one at fault. Don't hide behind her parents' authority to get your way," Liam said, making Mason visibly shrink in his seat. Liam then apologized to me and my parents. "I'm truly sorry for the trouble caused by my foolish son. I will have a serious talk with him." "Liam, you're not to blame, so please don't apologize," I replied. "Thank you for your kind words, but there's something else I need to say." I turned to Mason, who looked nervous. "The divorce papers you gave me, I've already filed them. We're no longer married." Mason and Martha both turned pale. "Why did you file them without my permission?" Mason demanded, shocked. "You told me I could file them whenever I wanted. Besides, you had already filled out your part and had Martha sign as a witness," I calmly explained, but Mason was clearly at a loss for words. Seeing the tension, Liam, furious, intervened. "Mason, you used divorce as a threat?" he exclaimed, and unable to contain his anger, he slapped Mason across the face. Martha, witnessing this, was visibly shaken. Liam turned to me and apologized sincerely. "I apologize deeply that you had to witness this. You have every right to divorce this fool. On behalf of Mason, I'm truly sorry for the damage done to your marriage," he said, tightening his grip on Mason's collar as he demanded apologies from both Mason and Martha before ushering them out of the house. Later, I thanked Liam for his intervention. He assured me that all of Mason's assets and property were transferred to me without any hassle, given my higher income and the effort I had put into managing our household. It was a relief to secure everything from our marriage. I later found out that Liam had divorced Martha, clearly disgusted by her actions. One day I ran into a colleague from Mason's old workplace who shared some surprising news. Mason had not been performing well at his job and often received harsh criticism from his boss. In defiance, Mason resigned and switched jobs, which only added to my frustration with him. Rather than taking responsibility for his shortcomings, he blamed others, which likely contributed to his lower pay at the new job. Now I'm relieved to have left him. I've rented a cozy apartment and am enjoying living independently. Work is going smoothly, and I even received a recent raise. Currently, I'm not interested in relationships and prefer to focus on my career. Mason always cared more about appearances than actual abilities. He maintained a facade at home but failed to improve professionally. Sadly, many spouses use divorce threats as leverage, thinking it gives them power, but it's a big mistake. I hope they realize their folly and find happiness alone. Meanwhile, I'm grateful to have moved on from Mason and look forward to meeting someone special in the future when I'm ready.